mentorship is important because, especially for young girls, because they might not have somebody to look up to, especially in academic spaces. There might not be someone at school or at home who's there for them, so it's nice to have an extra support system. When I tell other people about Step Up, I tell them that they give us connections to professional women who we would have never gotten in contact with if it wasn't for Step Up. So they really do bridge connections between young girls and professional women.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at Step Up Together. My name is Arianna, and I'm a proud senior of Step Up, the nonprofit mentorship organization behind today's summit. I'm here with two of my Step Up sisters, and we're going to share our truth talks with you. We are talking about the importance of mental health and social injustice and how these topics have impacted us personally. At the end of our talks, we'll gather for a roundtable discussion. I'll start with my truth talk. This is called Mental Wellness During Social Injustice. Our lives now look vastly different than they did a year ago. I'm sure you've heard or read the word unprecedented more than 50 times in the past 5 months. With injustices that affect us and those we love plaguing our world every day, it's difficult to not pay attention. The Black Lives Matter protests throughout the world have brought awareness to the police brutality and racial trauma suffered within the Black community. Next slide, please. My question to you all today: how has all of this been affecting your mental health? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arianna Garcia, and I'm an advocate that spreads awareness about issues that affect BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and how to help. The reason why I'm taking the time today to share the research and passion I have for spreading awareness about racial trauma is so that people who look like me, also have experienced it firsthand, or want to share resources with others can do so. I'm a person of color, I live in a community full of people of color, and to a school with the same. Most of the people that I love and look up to are people of color. Although I am not a licensed therapist, I am a high school student that is also a mental health advocate, and I intend to showcase just that. Next slide, please. Racism, as all of us have encountered once or countless times, is because of prejudice and power. Oppression comes in many forms, but the aspects of it are ideological, institutional, interpersonal, and internalized. I'll share with you some definitions now. Here they are. Ideological is the belief that one group is superior to another. This belief starts young. I believe that racism is taught at an early age. I know that this is true because of an instance in elementary school where one of my friends was kicked out of our friend group because of her skin color. She was Black. I wasn't made aware of her not being our friend anymore until she would never be around us on the playground. I remember feeling confused and mostly hurt because I couldn't understand why her skin color mattered for us to be friends. Even though I didn't say anything about what my other friend did then by purposefully excluding her, what I did do was that I stayed friends with her regardless of her skin color. Next, institutional is the idea that one group is better than another group and has the power to control the other, but is widely enforced, especially in our own government. That is why I feel it's important to elect representatives who understand the experiences of people like you and I. Third, interpersonal oppression is personal acts of discrimination at individual and community levels, which include racist stereotypes and jokes. For instance, recently, many Instagram accounts have been made to give Black community members in college a platform to share their experiences and shed light on racial discrimination. It's awful that students on campus continuously have to experience microaggressions, which I will get into later, or just outright racism. And finally, internalized oppression is when a person believes that the divide between races is normal and no change should be made. Now let's see how this plays out in our society today. Moving on to the next slide, Gerald Wing Sue is a professor of counseling psychology at Columbia University. He has defined microaggressions as verbal or nonverbal communication to an individual that insults them based on how they look like. An example of this is when an Asian American who is born and raised in the United States gets complimented for their good English. This is hurtful because it sends the message that the other person believes the Asian American is not a true American and should be treated as a foreigner in their own country. Any form of microaggressions or oppression that a BIPOC faces ultimately can lead to racial trauma. Racial trauma, next slide please, is basically the buildup of racism on an individual's mental and physical health. As you all hopefully understand, these types of oppression take a huge toll on the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. I invite you all to use the following 4 ways to cope with racial trauma. Next slide, please. First, talk to others you trust. Allow yourself to be heard, seen, and validated because your experiences do matter. Also, you can text Steve to 741-741, a crisis text line where people of color can connect with the trained crisis counselor. Next, racial socialization. This looks like speaking with others who share your racial or ethnic experience. So positive and validating messages that individuals receive about their racial group membership from their friends, family, and loved ones. Third, self-care/boundaries. Protect your peace by establishing healthy boundaries, like refraining from engaging in conversations that feel triggering or drains your energy. Try to monitor and limit your exposure to social media because it can be overbearing and heavy. Lastly, I would also recommend culturally responsive psychotherapy, which is finding a therapist who is responsive to your racial and ethnic identities, which reflects in their beliefs, values, and language. Therapy for Black girls is a great resource to find culturally responsive therapy. I also use and recommend the Liberate app, the only meditation app by and for BIPOC. Meditation can be used as a powerful tool to relieve racial trauma experiences. I hope you enjoy the rest of today's event and continue to show solidarity with the Black community as I do. I encourage you all to acknowledge the ongoing oppression that minorities face day by day and strive to be a part of the change. Once again, my name is Arianna Garcia, and thank you all for listening.
That was awesome, Anna. I'm now going to go into my true. My name is Dalencia Brown. Happy Step Up Together 2020. As I said, my name is Dalencia Brown. I'm a current member of Step Up and a senior attending BRW College Prep. I'm referred to as bubbly and extra by my friends and family. I'm a Cancer and I love anything creative. Now, I am grateful for every day I'm blessed with the breath of life, but I must admit, 2020 has been extremely difficult, and I wouldn't mind if we skipped to 2021. Every aspect of our lives has been interrupted, have done, and not to mention mentally draining. If it's not COVID, it's bigotry and the cloud of hate and negativity that has been hanging over the planet for the past couple of months. We've all had to complete daily tasks in dramatically different ways than we're used to. We're working from home, graduating virtually, re-exploring the world of film, and getting involved in our communities. We have adapted to conditions we did not make provisions for. Though this is a trying time, we're surviving, and that means something. That leads me to ask, how are we doing that? What is keeping us sane when everything has been so chaotic? Now, I can't answer that question for everyone, but I can answer for myself. And recently, what has been keeping me sane is me. So far, this year has taught me that I have to protect my energy. I'm listening to my body and being intentional about how I treat myself and what vibe I put out and allow myself to receive. I don't worry about things I can't control, and I create plans and solutions for things I can. I pick my battles and don't waste time on things that don't improve my quality of life or affect my work and essential needs. This outlook on life was hard to achieve because I've been placed in very uncomfortable situations since I was young. I moved a lot, changed schools. My mother passed right before my freshman year of high school, failed a few classes, had to go to summer school, and never felt like I had my head on straight. I felt like I always had to work twice as hard as everyone around me. I had stumbling blocks the size of skyscrapers, and trial and error was my middle name. I let everything stress me out, and more importantly, I was unhappy because I was unfulfilled. I had to hit my mental rock bottom before I realized that my cup was empty and I was unable to pour out any more of my energy. I looked around and noticed I was giving more than I was receiving. So there I am, 14 years old, about to end up my freshman year of high school, failing Algebra 1 and pretty close to failing biology, only managing to get one A in my English class and a high B in my reading. I was disappointed in myself, and I knew I had to do something different. So when I began my sophomore year at a new school, I started with creating boundaries. I knew education was important to me, so my friends weren't allowed to distract me from my work. I needed a stress reliever, so I tried my hand at poetry and found that I really liked it. It then became my outlet. I also gave myself breaks because I knew being overwhelmed greatly affected the quality of my performance in school and life in general. I realized that my issues only became unbearable if I let them distract me from my aspirations. These things, I began to thrive in school. I held leadership positions, started acting, and fell in love with it. I wasn't really worried about material things because I knew mentally I was rich and sure of myself. That's when I found Stoicism. The word dates back to ancient Greece in 300 BC. Stoicism sparked the conversation about the mastery of your emotions despite your predetermined destiny. Now, predetermined meaning that you don't have any control over your life and the universe decides everything. Now, some may refer to the universe as a kind of supernatural spirit or God, but not everyone is related. Anyway, whether you believe everything you do and every person you meet is already woven into your fate, or you believe you're the master of your own universe, Stoicism encourages a contentment with life despite every theory of what it means. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that our success and overcoming of hardships is directly proportional to how much work we put in. Things like classroom behavior certificates, weekly allowances, or even Santa Claus taught and still teach us that as long as you are good, only good things will come to you. That way of thinking works until you pay attention in class and still fail the test. Or you do all your chores, but your parents have used all the pocket change for rent. Or you get older and you find out Santa isn't real, and if you want presents, you have to go buy them. That realization can crush a person, drowning in existential crises, until you find out that it's not your fault. And no matter what you do, bad things happen to everyone. Stoicism implies the only way to combat the terrifying knowledge that we just cannot get the good without the bad is to accept it and prepare for when the bad comes. As if along with accepting that we are not in control of our fate, we must also learn to embrace adversity and create an immunity to it. We gain experience. It is important to understand that every person has their own set of challenges and setbacks. The objective of Stoicism is not to ignore these challenges, but to learn to navigate them in a healthy way. Some things are purely circumstantial and cannot be controlled, like a break-in or a fatal disease, but some things can be guided or steered by our actions and attitudes. We are questioning everything about our lives right now, our choices and our purpose in this world. But at this time, the question asking is, am I okay? Am I fulfilled by the people around me and the work that I've done? Also, am I happy? Okay? Ancient Stoics such as Epictetus or Aristotle thought of, and they thought that if we know that we all will have rainy days, why don't we start creating a plan for when those days come? Stoicism can begin as a slight adjustment in your perspective of your life events. Don't see failure as a measurement of incompletion, but as feedback on how to do better next time. And then another chapter in your slow rise to perfection. Now I'm human, so I do have my moments, but if I ever have a lingering thought, or rudeness to myself, I write it down and allow space for that emotion because it is valid, like all the other ones. It's just draining and negative. Sometimes that might turn into poetry, which has constantly boosted my attitude over and over again, and I also get something nice out of it. So my goal today is to pass some of the positive energy along. I'm encouraging you to start practicing some things that you consider self-care. It doesn't have to be based in Stoicism. It's my introduction. Anything that makes you happy counts as self-care. I'm telling you to find what makes you happy and do more of it. It's never too late, and it's actually the perfect time. Start doing things that invigorate you and that you're passionate about, and then pass the positivity. Thank you for listening. I'm wishing everyone peace, love, and happiness on your journey to becoming your best friend.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Step Up Together. My name is Vivi. I'm a proud Step Up alum and graduate of the class of 2018. I feel like mental health is a conversation many people try to avoid. It's a bit touchy-feely, and it forces people out of their comfort zone, or at least I know it did for me. In Step Up's 2018 Inspiration Awards, I shared with some of you my journey dealing with depression and anxiety in high school, and how, thanks to Step Up and their after school programs, I was able to finally build the confidence I needed to reach out for help from my family and professionals. And how Selena Gomez saved my life at a time where I was just nearly ready to give up. But for those of you who don't know that part of my story, it went a little like this. I grew up in an underserved, predominantly Latinx community in East LA. My mom is a devout Catholic with some very traditional ideas. Mental health was not a conversation we were really ever comfortable having. And because I kept avoiding that conversation, my mental health I was struggling at the time started affecting my day-to-day life. I would get panic and anxiety attacks at school. I cried every day when my alarm would ring because it meant that I was alive and I would have to face another day dealing with the pain that I just couldn't shake. But suicide was not an option for me. I just couldn't do it. All I kept on thinking about was how much my nieces and nephews looked up to me and the pain I would cause them if I left. Because the truth is that no matter how much the thoughts in our heads tell us we don't matter, we really do. We've touched so many people's hearts and lives in one way or another. The truth is, life is unexpected, and I wish I could have said that I am now depression-free and living a jolly, happy life, but it doesn't work like that. Or at least not for me. I started my freshman year at UCR pretty amazing. I prioritized myself for once. I went to the gym every day, ate 3 meals a day, and made sure to enjoy my life and not just solely occupy my day with work, things that I failed to do in high school. My mental and physical health were doing really well the first few months, and it took one visit home and one visit to the doctor to just completely destroy that. My relationship with my mom hasn't been the best. We have very different ways of thinking, and home always seems to just make me feel depressed. And I wrote it out for a bit until it just didn't go away, and I decided to make an appointment to see a therapist on campus. And that is when she told me, you only get out of therapy what you're willing to put into it. So I gave my all. I made sure I applied all the tools she gave me to my life. I made sure to practice mindfulness every day. I logged off all social media to be more in tune with my surroundings, and I had to challenge my thoughts and my self-talk. I discovered very quickly that as soon as I applied these tools to my everyday, the faster I started regaining control of my life. I started reliving my life again and making some life-changing decisions, like getting Nexplanon implanted into my arm, which is a form of birth control. But little did I know that this little device that went into my arm was going to take such a horrible toll on my mental health. And my doctor warned me that a possible side effect could be changes in my mental health. But I thought, you know what? I'm in therapy. I'm going to be fine. But it actually made my depression a lot worse. I had horrible crying spells. I isolated myself from my friends because I didn't want them to see me like that. I felt like such a burden. And my friends, oh, my beautiful, amazing friends, they are my lifelines. They always checked up on me and gave me space when I needed it. And for my birthday, they actually made me a snacks and love jar, which is a mason jar that had notes of love and encouragement with candies. And every time I felt I needed love, I would open it and it would just make me feel so much better. My friends, they are the ones that helped me get out of bed when I couldn't. They reminded me to always eat and drink water. They were my constant reminder that I did matter. But I also learned that I can't always depend on others. I have to be there for myself too. So I started writing notes, love notes, and I would paste them on my mirror every day to remind myself of the amazing, fierce queen that I know I am, and that if I went through it once, I can go through it again, and I'll come back stronger than the last. And I did. I came out of therapy one day feeling like myself, something I hadn't felt in a very long time. The truth is, life is a roller coaster filled with so many ups and downs. You just have to be ready to pick yourself right back up. I learned how important it is to know your own body and to know when something just doesn't feel right. Ask for help before you get to the point where you're wishing you were dead. Be proactive. The second you feel off, don't ignore it. Take a step back and try to figure out why you're feeling that way. Reach out for help. Create that support system, your lifeline. Fight. It gets tiring. I know it does. Believe me, I know how exhausting it can be. But remember, you are loved, you matter, and you are worth it. You are not a burden. You matter. You matter to us. You matter to your friends, your families. Step up. Your mentors, me, you might not think so, but you have touched our lives one way or another. You got this. Fight, and no one's got you like you do. Now that you've all heard from all of us, I'd like to invite my step-up sisters, Dalencia and Arianna, to join me in a roundtable discussion to discuss mental health. Hi. So right now is an incredibly difficult and chaotic time with the current political climate, environmental crisis, and a national reckoning with racial injustice, all in the middle of a global pandemic. Like, what has been your most important self-care practice during this time, and how does that benefit your mental health?
I'd love to start. So during this time, my most important self-care practice has been manifesting. And for those who don't know, manifesting is bringing something into your life intentionally through attraction and belief. And this has benefited my mental health as I find myself feeling calmer in my place in the world, and I'm able to bring forth more confidence in myself with this practice.
I don't know if you saw my passion when you were talking, Arianna, but I absolutely agree. I've had a couple different self-care practices. Mainly, I don't watch the news because it's greatly negative and it just has a no positive effect on the way that I feel about myself and the world. I also journal a lot, get my emotions out so that I release them. And then, like you said, Arianna, I manifest. I bring positive energy around myself intentionally. I keep in touch with positive people. Like you said, Vivi, having friends around you, having those positive role models and those people, especially people in your position that are in your age or they're in your school or that are your sisters or your brothers, whoever, I just try to keep as much positive energy around myself. And that's what I do.
Yeah, it's crazy. I feel like no one saw this pandemic hitting, and like you said, everything right now is just so negative. Like, no matter where you turn on your laptop and the news is on and it's all negative, and you look on your TV and it's negative, and you're talking to somebody and they're also talking about it. And it's like, you need to set your boundaries, and that's like what you did, Dalencia. You limited your news time because you knew it was negative, and you needed to protect your energy bubble and your vibes, because that at the end of the day is what's gonna give you the energy to keep on going, your vibes, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I like to do is set boundaries, and also because I feel like during this pandemic it's hard to keep track of what day it is, and it's because we don't have anything to look forward to. So I like to give myself something to look forward to at least once a week, if not every day. So if I'm craving something, I'll be like, you know what? Today I get to have it. And it's the power of I get to. I feel like before this pandemic, it was, tomorrow I have to take out the trash. It's like during this pandemic, it's like tomorrow I get to take out the trash, right? Because we have nothing else to do. But it's the power I get to by like changing the way you say things. It's more positive and it makes you feel more excited about it.
I agree.
That was beautifully said, everyone. I can share the next question. What experiences in your life, at school, with your friends, or in your family inform your thinking about mental health? Think about the ways gender, culture, religion, or any other aspect of your identity might influence your own experience with mental health.
That is a good question. I'll go ahead and start. I feel like there's so much personality here, us being people of color and also being women. There's so much there. There's so much room to discriminate and so much room to have mental unrest. And I feel like, you know, there's so many things that I just, that weigh heavily on my mind. And I'm always thinking of something where it's like, oh, maybe it should be this. And it's like, I hate this part of it, you know, so there's definitely a lot to be, you know, confused about and to, you know, be sad about. But also think about the fact that me being a Black female person who, you know, not that I'm not religious, but, you know, I conform to like, you know, ideas like that. Being different, I have the what is it? Like I have the responsibility to stand up for people who are like me and you know, take care of my mental health so that I can teach other people how to do it that also are in my position who feel different and who feel you know, broken away, because you can kind of feel like an outcast sometimes in the world because everybody wants you to be like them. Society wants you to be like people in the magazines. Republicans want you to be like them. Democrats want you to be like them. Christians want you to be like them. It's somebody is always like, be on this side. And you're like, but I want to do my thing. And it's okay to do your thing. And if that protects your mental health, you have to do that. So but you also have to have role models, and you also have to have people to look up to. And if I can be that person for somebody, or if, you know, I can be holding hands with somebody that's doing that as well, then that's good for me. So, yeah, I feel like right now and no matter what, you know, how I identify or, you know, what's going on, I take it as now that because I am that person, I have to be there for other people like that. And, you know, we have an honor to stand up for our rights and for the people around us that look up to us. I have little siblings, you know, come on. So, yeah, I guess.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like my first experiences with mental health were probably when I first experienced it, which was in middle school. And I remember I thought I was crazy because like this is something I've never been exposed to as a young girl. And I remember when it was happening and I was feeling the symptoms, I thought I was going crazy and I was like breaking down in class and I didn't know what to tell anybody. And when they would ask like, what's wrong? I'd be like, my stomach hurts. I'll make any excuse just to not sound crazy because I don't know why is a strange answer. And I feel like from that point on, I made it a point to do my own research, and I did what everyone else does these days, and it's Google it. So I would Google, you know, why do I feel sad all the time? Or like, why do I feel empty? Why do I cry for no reason? And it was all there, right? But I feel like it's one thing when you're reading something and knowing someone or hearing about other people that you know that are experiencing it. And so when I got to high school and I was continuing doing my research, I found out that Selena Gomez was also dealing with it. And I remember that when she announced that or that news broke, I remember I thought it was the craziest thing ever because I was like, Selena Gomez, my hero, is experiencing the exact same things that I am. And I thought I was going crazy. But for me, it's like when I found that she was experiencing it, it was like, this is actually happening. It was like, it confirmed it for me. And it's like, if she's experiencing it, there's no doubt about it that millions of other people are experiencing it. And so as I continued in high school, I got into a psychology class, and I actually joined Step Up because I learned that the next steps were dealing with it and helping heal, right? Healing. So I joined Step Up and I went to therapy. And from that moment on, I just made sure I was informed myself about it, right? And that whole experience just motivated me and encouraged me to be part of the conversation that I feel like we so badly need to be having every day with everyone, and make it a point that, we need to create the safe space for people to say, I'm dealing with this, and what can I do to get that help?
I completely agree, Vivi and Dalencia. I feel the same way. For me, I'm Catholic, and in the past, whenever I would run into a problem that I really didn't know how to deal with, I would ask my mom, and in response, she would say, talk to God. And being a first generation queer Latino woman, I kind of found myself helpless since I wanted someone to talk to that could easily respond back and relate to what issue I ran into. And with my mother, obviously, our experiences are very different. So there wasn't really an emphasis on mental health like I would have hoped. However, my other friends who are also first generation and people of color themselves understand that we're the ones who will change the current outlook on mental health. So throughout high school, we've been each other's support systems, and I find that remarkable.
Very eloquently said, Arianna. I'm going to go ahead and give our last question. Why is mental health an important or not so important issue in your community?
I feel like I wish I can say that mental health was really important. It's really important in my community, but the truth is like, it doesn't look like it is. And it's like, because we all come from the same backgrounds, which is like Latino, we all have, like, most of the people have similar ideas. And it's because they weren't taught any better, right? They didn't know any better. No one taught them any better. And it's like, if our parents didn't know any better, we didn't know any better growing up. And I feel like now we can see that people are realizing that it's important, but so I'm thankful we have that conversation still going. But it's like, if the majority of the people don't make it a priority, it's gonna play into the politics of it, and our politicians are not really going to make mental health a priority if their own community doesn't make it a priority. And you can see that. I mean, it took me half my life to figure out that right across the street of me, there's a therapist. I didn't know that. I thought it was crazy, and it's because it doesn't even say therapist. It's just a building that all I know is that on the first floor, it's a school for special needs kids. And that's all I knew because it didn't say otherwise. But I feel like once people start having the conversation and they make it a priority, then the politics plays in, and then their politicians can start making it a priority.
So for me, I live in New York City, and I feel that there are definitely opportunities out there for people who need mental health services to access them. In my community, though, specifically in my building, women come together to discuss and work on their mental health issues, and it's a collective. It's amazing because not everyone can afford a therapist, and they communicate their problems with each other and how to solve them. I even see the strong bond and connection in Step Up because I've had so many experiences that I'm endlessly grateful for. I know that I can always confide in my mentors because they never fail to cultivate a safe space for young women, no matter what they look like or where they're from. And Step Up in itself inspires me to also make safe spaces in my life where women don't feel judged but do feel supported.
Yes. And my answer to that question, I guess it would be that as much as I hate to say it, mental health is definitely a huge issue in the Black and Brown community. We're in a world that tries to shut us down when we call out where they could do better. And I feel like having, especially the higher ups, be like, shut up, you can't talk. Now it's like, okay, so I shouldn't even say anything at all. Then that goes back to how our parents were taught. They were taught not to be trying to go against politics or go against, people in higher positions. And I feel like now that we are having these conversations, now that it is being brought up, we have a duty to continue having these hard conversations, continue making safe spaces for Black and brown people all over the world, and continue normalizing people, being sad sometimes or going through things. That's okay. That is okay. Like, that's okay. And I feel like we tend to forget that. We tend to forget to say, well, it's all right for me to need a mental health day. It's all right for me to need to take a break. And once we start doing that, and not just for women, but for men as well, especially, like, for real, once we start telling them, like, it's okay to feel, I feel like the world will slowly just become a better place. So I feel like it's the most important so that we can improve the world, because the world is struggling so much right now based off so many things, but partly the mental toll that everything is taking on us right now, and people are taking it out in looting or this or that or whatever they might do. And we need to have better ways to express ourselves, and we're not going to know better ways if we don't have those conversations and if we don't create safe places for people to get that out. So it turns into everything else. So we have to have these difficult conversations so that we can overall improve the world.
Yes. Preach.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us today here in our Truth Talks and listening to us, in our roundtable. For our guests, Step Up hopes to raise over $500,000 today to fund Step Up's mentorship programs for girls and alumni. Please consider helping us reach this goal by visiting the donate icon on the Step Up website or app. We hope you enjoy the rest of the summit, and thank you.
Yay.
Okay.